How to bring a husband back into the family. The departure of a loved one from the family is a great shock to any woman. People get married to live a long and happy life together. No one marries or gets married planning to break up one day, but it happens for some reason. Even if the husband for some reason left the family, there is almost always a chance to fix the relationship and get him back. But for this, you will have to do extensive work on mistakes. If you want to get your husband back in the family, you need to accept the need for change in you and your behavior, because to build a new relationship on the old scheme, it means dooming them to failure. Family preservation is a complex task. There are not a couple of rules, compliance with which is enough for the family to be strong. But there are a few fundamentally important attitudes that can change the intentions of two, already once loved, reasons for leaving a husband's family. Often for women, the husband is the most beloved and dear person. For many, it is a whole world in which they dissolve. Therefore, such wives are especially concerned about the question of how to get her husband back into the family, if the discord occurred on emotional grounds, and after the woman caught up with regret about the words spoken in haste. A slightly different range of emotions covers those wives who were left without conflict. But in such a state, the feeling of abandonment affects no less, and in addition is reflected in the sphere of communication with society and personal self-determination. Women's goals and life plans collapse because personal self-determination is directed to the future, and with the departure of her husband, it seems to the woman that the world has stopped, and the future without a spouse is not and cannot be. It is not always the case that realizing the origins of the problem helps in solving it. However, in this situation, it is important to understand the reasons for the departure of the husband and the breakdown of the relationship, which may be the following. A quarrel. Sometimes it has a momentary character, but often grows into a real scandal. The heat of passion is sometimes gaining serious proportions, forcing the husband to leave the family for quite a long time. Is understanding. If after a quarrel, the hearts in love reconcile quite quickly, then in this case the wall of alienation can stretch for a long time. Very often disrespect for each other leads to a rupture, after which the broken cup will not glue. Lack of attention to the husband. Some ladies, after visiting the registry office, consider the work on the relationship as a finished process. They argue such a conclusion by the fact that the family is created and it is not worth stressing over its further development. Old love. Especially such metamorphosis is subject to windy men who do not value family. At the same time, they can get carried away by former feelings when they meet their first love. A new relationship. Bum in the rib and grey in the beard, frequent reasons for the departure of the elderly macho from home. In the end, he may regret his decision, but not always the legitimate wife forgives such experiment spouse. It is the last two reasons that are the most dangerous factors for the further existence of the family. In this case, a woman will have to fight with her rival to preserve the relationship with her loved one. What not to do after your husband leaves. The situation is very tense, especially for the nervous system. Now you need a cold approach, and the main thing is not to do something stupid. To do this, it is necessary to sort out the main mistakes. Never give in to panic. No matter how loud the scandal may be, a man will never leave on an emotional background. They always think things over for a long time and weigh their decisions before major changes. At this point, leave him alone. Let him cool down from emotions. If you will call him pull, somehow drip further on the brain, nothing good, it will not end. On the contrary, he will have an even stronger desire to escape. Don't grovel. No one likes a man who's a coward. If even a man will fall for all your humiliation, what kind of relationship will it be? He will be unhappy, and your so-called bond will be held solely on pity. It's not worth it. Don't feel sorry for yourself. How will feeling sorry for yourself help you? Think about it. Your husband left. What good do you get out of it? You have a lot of free time to use as you see fit. Start living happily, without sadness and sorrow. Make your dreams come true. Do not harbour feelings of revenge against your husband or his new companion. It's just pointless. If you start to clarify the relationship, except for increasing tension and intensifying the conflict, will not get anything in return. Remove yourself from the problem and take a break. Don't harbour feelings of revenge against your husband or his new companion. It's just pointless. If you start to clarify the relationship, except for increasing tension and conflict will not get anything in return. Remove yourself from the problem and rest. On the background of emotions, many women decide to take revenge on their husbands and start cheating in return. What do they get? Everyone around them and common relatives will know about them. They will say, the wife was a whore and the husband did the right thing to run away from such. The wife will lose honor and dignity. Do not gossip or even discuss the situation among your friends or relatives. Calm down and be alone for a while. Is it necessary to bring your husband back into the family? Before taking decisive action, a wife left by her husband must honestly answer questions for herself. Was she happy with the relationship that had ended? Is she to blame for her spouse leaving her? Does she consider him the only worthy man in her environment to build a relationship with? Will she be able to forgive her husband for leaving? If a woman answers positively to all these questions, it means that she is ready to begin the mission to return the beloved. If the terminated relationship was filled with resentment and recriminations or constant cheating, it is worth thinking about the feasibility of their resumption. Tactics for getting your husband back. Return the husband to the family quickly will not work, and it is important to immediately realize that reproaches, tears, pleas for men do not work, but the remnants of self-respect will be lost. It is necessary to wait for some time and make certain tactical moves. So, the advice of a psychologist, how to get her husband back into the family. Don't be intrusive. Do not impose your communication on your spouse, especially if ideas to call or text visit at night. 2. Increase the distance. If your spouse will be coming home during the day for personal business, you should meet extremely quickly or be absent from home at that time. This is to make the husband feel the contrast, as subconsciously he or she will be waiting to talk about clarifying reasons or asking to return. And so the rapid disappearance or absence of the woman at home will make the man interested in what is going on in his spouse's life. 3. Show interest. After a while, a woman can ask her husband about some general questions, because there will always be reasons to talk. It is important to keep the dialogue short, and the conversation should feel easy and free. No words of accusation or references to ill health should not sound. Ask for forgiveness. Next, it is important to ask for forgiveness for the reason why your spouse left. It is necessary to apologize to the husband, for example, for not paying attention to him or constantly controlling, so he did not want to come home. This is important so that the husband realizes that the woman understands the motives for his action and is ready for a constructive solution to the problem. 5. Do not agree to be intimate. In the future, when there will be meetings, moments of intimate attraction are not excluded, and in this case it is important to keep a distance from physical intimacy until the husband finally returned to the family. It is required to understand that intimacy is not able to return the husband to the family because there was a crisis at the level of interaction between the two personalities. So, if a woman wants to return her husband to the family, she will have to change her behavior, because to build a relationship on the old scheme means to doom them to failure. It should be remembered that the man should be given a lot of space, because the primary reason for the male leaving is the unacceptability of being in the interaction that was before. Men leave where they can't bear to be. If a man is serious about getting a divorce, it is important to consider real advice on how to influence a spouse who has made the decision to leave. Don't be afraid to tell him that he doesn't have to leave the family. Married men rarely neglect a sense of responsibility. If your husband is seeing another woman, emphasize his respect for himself. Ask your spouse how long he or she will be happy knowing that he or she is being unfair to you. Get his interest in you. How to regain your husband's interest in you. Show sensitivity and understanding at the moment when your spouse expects you to clarify the relationship on the raised tones. Listen carefully to information about what bothers the life partner. Engage in a long conversation. Steer away from a hostile tone. Let your husband know that you fully accept him for who he is. Get your relationship back with your husband. How to get your relationship back with your husband. Use his feelings. Explain to your spouse that it took a long time to become one, and now you need time to learn to live without him. Tell him that it is important for you to see him, cuddle with him. Share your feelings and thoughts. A man usually responds when he's needed. It is important that this need does not violate his personal boundaries. Get your passion back. How do you get your passion back? Tell your husband that he ruined your hopes for a life with him, so now he must help you build a new life without him. Ask your spouse to introduce you to decent single men he knows. Try to look happy when you are out in public with him. It's hard for a man not to be possessive when other members of the stronger sex look at his spouse with adoration. And do not forget to tell your husband that you only look happy, and in fact both he and you are aware of well-hidden sadness. Emphasize that your husband is the source of your sexual satisfaction. Win back your spouse's trust. How do you win back your husband's trust? Tell him that a man like him is almost impossible to find. It is often not difficult to find a sexual partner, but not a friend. How to get your husband back if he doesn't want to come back. When women come to see a psychologist, they often say, "I want to get my husband back, but I don't know how to do it." If the spouse himself does not want to return to you, it means that you just need to accept this situation and not beat in the closed door. Forced happiness is not built. Even if you make the maximum effort to do so, with excessive obsession of the former spouse, the husband can radically change his opinion about her. Stop communicating with the children to avoid meetings with her. In such cases, the wife has virtually no chance of restoring the family. Put yourself in his place. See if you would be able to return to him if you completely lacked the desire to do this. That is why you should not demand from your husband what he will never be able to give, even if the daily communication with the common children is at stake. How do you get your husband back when he won't make contact? Women sometimes turn to a psychologist for advice and ask for guidance on how to bring their husband back into the family to establish relations with him. Sometimes after divorce, spouses completely lose contact, avoid communication, and joint walks with children. In this case, to bring the spouse back will be extremely difficult. First of all, you need to think about how to establish a superficial communication with him, and then to deal with his meetings with children. If the departure was accompanied by prolonged scandals or offences, it is not easy to get a man back if he left to another or just wants to be alone. First, you need to deal in detail with the features of the parting. Determine the reasons. If a man does not talk to you because of deep resentment or disappointment, to begin with you need to correct this nuance. It is enough to arrange a meeting or specially set it up. Then ask him to apologize, let him understand that you were wrong and your parting does not have a logical conclusion. If you are dear to your spouse, he will forget about all the offences and return. Often psychologists hear from women, "Sama kicked out her husband, now I want to return." The whole problem is the unstable female psyche, as well as the inability to control their emotions. Fighting with her spouse, the wife often decides to leave him or kick him out the door. After a few days, resentment passes, and the woman begins to think how to return the beloved person, ask his forgiveness, and no longer jeopardize family relations. If a spouse has left her husband on her own initiative, she should first establish contact with him and only then move to action to get back. How to get your husband back with children. Some women go to extremes, returning betraying husbands just for the sake of their children. Psychologists consider this foolishness because no one takes the father away from the offspring. Separate only parents who decide to live separately, to overstep their desires. Tolerate cheating and humiliation of the husband for the sake of children is stupid. It's important to remember that children will only feel comfortable when their parents are happy, so it doesn't matter if mom and dad live together or apart. If you don't have feelings for each other, but want to get your prodigal husband back after kicking him out, it won't make you happy. The children will soon realize the naivete of the relationship and find out that their father has mistresses. Such a disclosure will be a big stress for them. How to get a husband back in one day. If a woman has foolishly kicked her husband out of the house, there is bound to come a moment when she wants to make things right quickly. If the husband does not have another woman, it is much easier to return everything to normal. With the presence of a mistress for his happiness will have to fight. Most often men go to other women because they find in them what was not in the spouse. Take the ex-husband away from the mistress and make him return to the family is sometimes difficult. To do this, you need to know the secrets of return, which are used to establish a relationship and return the faded feelings. The most important thing is to find the cause of the crisis and honestly admit to yourself what could induce your husband to such a serious step. Agree, a man will not leave home where he feels good and where he feels loved. He also does not make this decision in one day. Such a reason can be a lack of attention from your side, lack of communication, too frequent criticism of his actions, the desire to control his every move. Naturally, Separately, such reasons should not become a reason for divorce in a happy family. But if the problems have been accumulating for a long time and stress does not let you relax, then any little thing can serve as the last straw. Find the mistake and work on it. That is your main goal. The challenge for a wife who doesn't want to lose her husband is to face the difficulties honestly, decide if she can handle them, and if her husband is worth it. When there is a family discord and emotions are running high, the hardest thing to do is to force yourself to press pause and not continue to run in an enchanted circle, wasting time and energy. Meanwhile, psychologists advise to abstract from what has happened. Try to distract yourself from the problem for a while, communicate more with friends, go for a walk, go with your head to work, find a new hobby, or just go on a trip. Put yourself in the center of attention and switch from negative emotions. You'll see even a week of living in this mode will help you look at the situation with different eyes. This period will help you boost your self-esteem, which, even if you don't admit it to yourself, is suffering from what happened. A good solution will be a visit to the hairdresser and regular visits to the fitness club, or even a psychoanalyst if you feel the need. Improvement in the professional sphere will also benefit. You can enroll in courses or simply start reading more. Such a trick will quickly make you think about other things and channel all your energy in a positive direction. In the first weeks after the breakup, it is most difficult to keep yourself in control. Many women call or text their husband endlessly, begging him to return or, on the contrary, choose the technique of intimidation. Such behavior will not help to return the spouse, but only further alienate him from you and negatively affect your ego. When your husband leaves home, it usually does not mean that he disappears from your life forever. As a rule, you have to see each other occasionally to solve everyday issues. The upbringing of common children, the need to pick up some things. Such meetings should be used to your advantage. Do not meet him on the doorstep with a face swollen with tears, and do not start another clarification of relations. During these meetings, you need to show your husband that your life does not revolve solely around him and does not end after his departure. This period of greater attention to yourself is just what is needed for the man to see. You have a personal life, interests, and the time you spend without him is good for you. The next step is to apologize. This is a very difficult stage, and it is necessary to approach it consciously, fully aware of what you are doing it for. Naturally, in a divorce situation, both parties can be at fault. Perhaps it was you who cheated on him, or the main blame lies with the man. Your apology does not symbolize that you are taking full responsibility. That is just wrong and unfair. It signifies your realization that he has lacked attention or support from you, and that you are willing to take some of the blame for what happened. By doing this, your husband will realize that the reasons for his actions are clear to you, and that you are emotionally mature enough to have an equal dialogue with him, and seek a solution. In addition, if you apologize first, you will gain a moral advantage over him. After you have managed to get out of the vicious circle of accusations and resentments, you can confidently move towards the main goal, a qualitative change in the relationship. Try not to give in to temptation, and do not think that you can be together without doing serious work on yourself. The result in this case will be sad. You are likely to step on the same rake. You must realize that your husband has left the family and is no longer 100 yours as he used to be. Your union has seriously changed, and being together will require a fresh start. At the inception of the relationship, few people arrange scandals to their soulmate and climb with unsolicited advice. Remember how you behaved with your spouse when you first started dating. To such a model of relations should strive, and at this stage, you respect his personal space. Do not pester with questions. This is how you can revive the man's interest in his wife. Don't think that you know him like the back of your hand. You have lived together long enough, but the fact that he left to another, and you could not prevent it, means only that this man is a mystery to you. Try to get to know your spouse anew. Talk to him more, pay attention to his thoughts and opinions. Give advice only if he asks you to. Act like a true friend. Remember that this implies support and interest, but not flirting. He should not think that you are ready to come back to him at his beck and call. Keep him at a certain distance, so that he realizes you are no longer his wife as before. He cannot count on a hot dinner, ironed shirts, as well as love caresses when he wants. Now it's up to him to win you over again too. At this stage, it is very important to adhere strictly to the tactics. He cannot stay overnight or come every night for dinner until he admits his mistake and decides to return to the family. If you show weakness and begin to fulfill all the female household duties, just because you think that you and so everything is getting better, you risk to be left with nothing. The man will simply decide, since he and so get all the household bonuses, then make a serious step and return to you is not necessary. If your husband left the family to another woman, do not think that it is useless to fight for him. Remember the tactics of waiting. First, you yourself will bring your thoughts in order and, having calmed down, will be able to soberly assess the situation. And secondly, the relationship of your husband with his mistress will lose its novelty. They will inevitably face domestic problems and inevitable lapping. It is at this point that the man begins to compare and think that perhaps he made a mistake and should have stayed with his family, children, and the woman with whom he spent many years. It is not difficult to determine when this moment will come. The man will look tired, confused, and irritated. Your task at this time, do not sarcasm and do not add oil to the fire. Remember, now you are his friend, not his wife, and from you he expects, above all, support. Ask him what is bothering him and what you can do for him. These careful steps will allow him to think again. Has he made a mistake? Has he made the right choice? Now all you have to do is wait. Do not go on feelings, and do not make the same mistakes at this crucial moment. If you see that he clearly wants to resume a relationship with you, try to make it clear right away. You will not wait patiently when he finally decides to make a final choice between the two women. For you, a relationship with a busy man is unacceptable, so your spouse must leave the other woman to return to you. When a man decides that he wants to come back to you and start over, it is important to prepare the ground for a new relationship. You have done a lot of work on yourself, but the same work should be done together with him. You together should frankly talk through all the problems that you had in the family. Something did not like you, something did not suit him. It is necessary to choose words very carefully, so that this conversation did not bring you back to quarrels and accusations. Only by sorting out together those mistakes that were made earlier, you will be able to avoid them in a new relationship. After that, it will be necessary to establish new rules that also deal with correcting previous mistakes. If you are not satisfied with the separate budget in the past married life, start combining your incomes. If the problem was your husband's hot temper, refuse to use raised tones together. If you both focus too much on career and forgot about family, start spending more time together. All these rather banal things should become rules, agreed or even written. That way, it will be easier for both of you to remember and abide by them. How to get your husband back after divorce. Psychologists advise, after the calm stage, you can think about what to do to turn the situation in your direction. If you manage to talk to your ex, your relationship did not turn into another quarrel, and now you are sure that you can move on, you can listen to some recommendations from psychologists. 1. Learn to love again. After separation, it can be much harder to do this, because the experienced quarrels and disappointments could harden your heart. But you need to realize that this is temporary, and very soon feelings will return to their former state, especially if your love was strong and real. 2. Recognize your mistakes and admit them. Do not put pressure on your spouse, trying to throw all the blame on him. In the breakup is always guilty of both partners to a greater or lesser extent. If you feel guilty, be sure to apologize to your husband. This is not an easy step, but by doing it, you will ease your soul and see that your partner will appreciate your action. Perhaps he will take the same step towards you. 3. Remember that there is no such thing as perfect. Everyone has flaws, just like you and your partner. Accept them and don't dwell on this point. If necessary, talk it over with your spouse. 4. Take your time. Take the approach in small steps, so as not to hurt the feelings that are just beginning to be restored. In the beginning, make appointments that are not too frequent. 5. Find common interests. You probably had something in your marriage that brought you closer to your partner. Remember that and try to spend time together doing that activity. Sports. Hobbies. 6. Do not expect much. Be prepared for any development of events. Don't expect your spouse to come back for sure, but hope for the best. Is it possible to get her husband back after divorce? A complex question, depending on many factors. Do not rush things, learn to love yourself, and then the situation will become less painful and not so difficult. If you begin to behave as an independent woman, full of interests and secrets, changed and beautiful, the man will clearly notice the changes and will again be interested in you. You will open up to him from a different side, previously unknown to him, and this will plant in his mind doubt about breaking up with you. You will also stop constantly visiting thoughts, "I want to get my husband back after the divorce." You will feel free and ready for new actions, whether they will be aimed at the return of her husband or at the beginning of a new independent life. It is up to you. Thank you again for watching. Like and subscribe to the channel, and I wish you all the best on your journey towards a happy and fulfilling life, whether that involves getting your husband back or finding new love and happiness along the way. Take care. And remember, you've got this.